All right, let's do the layout. So we're gonna record the layout, right? And then we're not gonna show it in the video, right?
We actually might show the layout.
Might show the layout. This is about the center. Just put a tiny dot for reference.
Yeah, that's VP.
About the center. You have a ruler. Let me do like a quick grid.
The guitar neck. The guitar neck.
Oh, the guitar.
That's pretty straight. You can do it if you want.
I'm just there.
I hope they're recording this.
Hello, so my name is Ryan Benjamin. I am a comic book artist, a professional comic book artist, and I pretty much do everything.
My name is Rembert Montald. It's a real honor to draw with Ryan, because I've been following his stuff for a while. I'm a storyboard artist, concept artist, sort of. We both do a bit of everything.
So we're gonna do a demonstration on some art, some characters here. So we're just gonna throw it out and see what comes out. So
really found it interesting the way you drew your mannequin already here. You can clearly see the action line, and there's different sort of every person has their own mannequins, and that is.
So the way how I think about my mannequins, it's really based on speed. So I use a shorthand version of how you've seen those wooden mannequin dummies that's out there. And a lot of people, when they're drawing, they lay out the whole character. I try to use a shorthand version of that just so I can lay out the entire scene and knock it out super fast. That way I can draw an entire comic book page in a really, really short time. It doesn't take me 1 or 2 days to finish an entire page. I can finish it in a couple hours.
And if there's feedback then you can quickly iterate, because you haven't spent hours on the characters. The mannequins are clear and the acting is clear.
Okay, so I'm gonna quickly just lay out how I think about my mannequin. So basically I think of the core of the character, which is just the center mass. The arms and head and legs, it's basically just extra for me. It's the movement of the character. It's where the dynamics come from, and this is where the story comes from. But before you express the story of the character and what they're doing, you want to lock that character in 3D space. Yep. So I center on the core of that character first. Then I can expand on it.
So first the spine or the major action line.
Yeah. So that's basically it. So like say I have this, I'm going to draw like a female character right here in the middle. So basically what I'm thinking when I'm looking at it is I'm thinking of this chest area. I'm going to draw my sockets here, and from here I'll try quickly scribble just an area where I think where her hips are going to land. And then I'll refine that and just kind of quickly create like this real rough underwear type shape. Then I'll connect it. And once I have that, now I kind of have a sense of, okay, I have the character. This is the center of the character. This is where she's going to go. This is where she's going to land. And then from there, I can go in and refine it and change it more into more of a feminine.
Yeah, like hourglass.
Feminine. So that's basically it. And then after that, everything else is extra. So if I pull the head out, I'll pull the head out over here. If I pull an arm out, I'll pull the arm out like that. And then if I pull a leg out, the legs will come out in this direction. So I focus on the core first, and then I knock out the rest of this.
Actually, that's it. Can I have the pencil really
quick?
Go
for it.
I could do the same.
Okay.
So the main part is for me this gesture line. Very much like you would circle, and then here you have this underwear shape. And here you have room for the pubic bone, like this, like that. And then you just keep following that long axis, and same, like I think it's more of a tube. You just put an X and you have the biceps, the triceps, and the brachialis right here. And it's just tubes that I sort of try to see the cylindrical form of.
Yes.
And then you can, like a sculptor, you have your tube, and then you can just chisel it out, because the main direction of the tube is already has a bend in it.
Exactly. So we all think alike. If you think about it, that's basically
comic books,
artists.
animation.
We think alike, right?
There you go.
So that's it. I quickly laid this out. I'm pretty much going to do that for the rest of the characters, so I can get a sense of where the character is going to live in 3D space, and then I'm going to jump right into it and start applying detail. Now, typically, how I'll apply my detail is that after I've scribbled out this basic core shape, then I can, as a demonstration, I can go in and start adding shadows just like really fast. or I can immediately jump into it. So I can do this with the pencil or with an ink pen. I usually use like these brush pens. You know, these brush pens are amazing. I love using these things here. Typically, I use those, or I'll get like one of these.
Those big ones.
Yeah.
Can you show the big Sharpies are? I never saw those before.
These Magnum Sharpies, so I use these a lot. So these are amazing. So I use a combination of these two. Now, this one here is a Sharpie. Everyone knows what a Sharpie does,
Yep.
but this one here has ink in here. So I'll get like a bottle like this, with some ink in there, and I'll fill it, and I'll just dump it in there and just kind of keep going with it. I typically use these fat markers just so I can lay out the large shadow areas, the large black areas, so I can knock out all my absolute blacks really fast, and then I can go back with white and do some cleanup on some fine details. But that's basically my process. So I'm just gonna jump right into it.
Yeah, me too.
And then let's just see what comes out of this. So I'm scribbling right now. So now this is one form of how I draw. Okay, I will literally go in and just kind of really quickly scribble these shapes, because I kind of have a sense of where I think the character is going to go. So I basically will scribble just like this, and now I have a sense of it, okay?
Right.
And what I'm looking for is just a direction. I'm looking for something just to help me understand what am I drawing, who am I drawing, where's the character going, how is it laid out on this entire page, and how is it going to bring impact to the reader when they're reading this. So that's literally one of the things I'm doing here. But there's another form I also use is when I actually go in with the core, just like this with the female. So typically I'll do this again, I'll do this again, and then once I have this core, then I'll go in and pretty much do this on top of that. So I'll go in and just quickly lay out her arms, lay out her shoulders.
Yes, the connecting point.
Yeah, and just kind of, you're just roughing out the shape just so you can get a sense of it. And now I kind of have a sense of it. I'm like, okay, I get it. Now all I have to do is just go in and just start adding.
Carving out the shadow shapes, the light shapes.
Yes, exactly. And start adding all the details and stuff like that. Do you know the name of all the human body parts? And do you think about that stuff, or is this something you just kind of...
No, I think I had a teacher that he learned all the names, and he had me do exams. It's like what are the insertions here? I forgot a lot of them. I should relearn them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if he's listening.
It's okay. Yeah, I think he'll forgive you. I feel like if you're gonna learn all that, you might as well just be a doctor or something.
Do you do that?
No, I don't.
You still know the big muscle groups, right?
Oh yeah, of
so
course.
intuitive
Yeah,
at this
yeah,
point,
yeah. You have to know those, but I mean, as far as going to take a test and know how to spell every single word, it's not happening.
I love those lines you're doing there.
Oh yeah.
Great inking technique.
Yeah, it's if you look at it, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just basically just knock out the absolute blacks as fast as you can.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
And you can do in the halftones later.
Yeah, from time to time I'll do the halftones. Like now, like I'll just come in and scribble like this just to kind of get a sense of it. But for the most part, you don't have to do it now.
Knew Jung Gi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first time you saw his stuff?
The first time I saw his stuff was when I was introduced, when I was told that I was going to draw on stage with him.
Oh, that's
I was
scary.
Like, who? They're like, yeah, Kim Jung Gi, and then they showed me his work, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. This guy's good. Let's do it. So that was the first time I saw his work, and that was my introduction to him. And it was kind of intimidating at first.
Yeah.
Because I'm on stage. There's about 600 people there. And while he's drawing, he's just immediately going in with his ink brush. And I'm on the side with my red pencil, still doing scribbles, still doing layouts, and trying to figure this out. And about 10 minutes in, someone tapped me on the shoulder like, when are you going to finish? When are you going to start drawing? And I'm like, what? I've already started drawing. What are you talking about? and I look over to the side, and Kim's almost halfway done, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I was like, "Yeah, I need to speed up." So yeah, that was one of the things that was an eye opener for me.
I think for everyone that saw his work, I was in animation school when I saw it. It was 2013, and it was like a guy that's a lot on the internet, and he just showed me his work, and I was like, oh damn, that's the bar now. Okay.
Yeah, Kim's amazing. He was. Or what do you really enjoy about working in games?
It's a new medium entirely that got invented like 20 years ago. I always wanted to be at the start of animation in the 30s, 40s. I wish I was there, but I'm not. So and I'm also a little bit too late to be at the birth of gaming. But at least it's closer to being new. So I'm gonna try to find ways that I can bring something to that medium in storytelling terms. Because at the end of the day, it's all storytelling.
Mm-hmm. So were you a concept artist, or what did you do?
Storyboard artist.
Storyboard artist? Okay.
Yeah, and actually first I started as an assistant animator, like doing the in-betweens, and then I theme parks with Ryan Woodward, storyboarding, and then into concept, VFX concept. I mean everything. So it's a little bit. I enjoy doing a lot of things because if it's the same thing over and over again, then I maybe it's my OCD. I get kind of bored. So. And when you told me about yourself, I had the same feeling that you like to do everything as well.
Oh yeah.
Is that because you like it, or it's just because of necessity sometimes? Or?
No, I just like it.
I just like it too. There you go.
I am the type of artist that I don't like to stop learning. I like to do as much as I can, and I feel like I'll do as much as I can till I'm really comfortable, and then I start to get bored.
Right.
And then I want to push myself and learn something new. So I'll do that. So I'll jump around, and that's how I end up knowing 30 different things in this industry. Like I can do this, I do that, I do this. So it's kind of like that, a little bit of just being uncomfortable with settling. I don't like to settle. So I like to push myself. Yeah, exactly.
What are the differences between working in games and comics?
I can't answer that.
Have you ever worked on a comic book?
No.
Okay. I guess I could answer that.
Yeah.
So the differences, I would say, is number one is maybe deadlines. Because you have a pretty large window when you're working in games to produce something, especially if you're working on a giant team. If you're working on a smaller team, then obviously you have a giant workload on your back. But if you have a large team, you have a lot more time to do this. In comics, you have to produce a comic book, and you typically get about 5 to 6 weeks to do 22 pages. So it's a lot of work in a short amount of time. So you have to be able to learn some of the shortcuts, like I was explaining
The mannequins.
with the mannequins. You have to learn a lot of shortcuts, not just in the characters, but in backgrounds. And then if you can storytell and you can, how to express it on a blank sheet of paper and make it dynamic and make it pop, you're well on your way to being a pretty good comic artist. Yeah, well, and that's another thing too, when you're drawing comics, you're basically working by yourself. You're a one-man team. On games, you're on a team, and you have to be able to work with a team. You have to be able to work with a director, an art director, a lead artist, technical artists, animators. You have to be able to work with those guys and go back and forth and communicate with different people, different parts of the team. So it takes a lot more, and there's also reviews.
Reviews?
When companies that make you go through like these annual reviews and stuff, make you go through that stuff.
Comics books don't do that.
No, comics is just draw it and get it done and turn it in. That's it. Move on. So.
Well, I hear a lot about you from Dan. So.
Oh, Dan's a brother of mine. So.
Yeah, you said you roommated together at the start.
Yeah. So this is people who don't know. This is Dan Norton I'm talking about. So he's a really close friend of mine, and
shout out to Dan.
And yeah, we met when we both started in the industry together. We were roommates. He was my first roommate right after college when I came out of college and I started in the industry. he and I room together, and we have a lot of stories we can talk about, but I won't.
About how he came over when you were stuck on a deadline. And, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that
should I
story-
tell that story again?
Yeah, you should.
Can you tell that story?
Okay, so basically, all right, I'll tell the story. So basically, I should say, I was working on a Star Wars comic book. Hate missing deadlines. I can't stand when I'm late. I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. So I'm always ahead of time. I'm always trying to, I'm sort of speedy when it comes to drawing.
Right.
And at the time, I was doing 2 jobs. So I was drawing this comic book, and I was also working at this other place. And so my day job was to work at the studio as a concept artist. And my night job was to draw this comic book. The editor sent me 3 files. And it was basically issue 1, issue 2, and issue 3. But 2 of them were docked files. The other one was an RTF file, and I had no idea what an RTF file was. And I'm like, what is this? I'm assuming this is like a duplicate of something. So I just kind of blocked it out, not even think about it, and I just drew the doc files. So each file was an entire script. So I drew issue 1, then I jumped onto the next one, which the next doc file, and I thought that was issue 2, and I kept drawing that one. So as I'm drawing, I finished off issue 1 and issue 3, and I sent it to my editor. My editor was like, "This is great. Where's issue 2?" I was like, "What do you mean, where's issue 2? I just turned in issue 2. I'm thinking it's issue 2."
Right.
And he was like, no, that was issue 3. We need issue 2 because this book coming out pretty soon. We need to get this thing done. So I was like, oh my God. I told him I will have the book for you by the end of the week. He was like, okay. Kind of like that. So I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? So I called up 2 friends of mine. Of course, Dan Norton was one of them, and the other one was Javon Kirby. People know him as JJ Kirby. So I called them both up, and I said, "Hey guys, I need some help. I need to finish an entire comic book by the end of this week, and I need you guys. I'll do the layouts. I'll do the characters. I just need you guys to help me with the backgrounds." They were like, "Sure, no problem."
How long do we have?
A week. So they came on and they helped me out. They literally helped me with drawing the backgrounds, and they stayed at my house for the entire week, and they helped me draw this entire comic book. And we started on a Monday. Friday came by, book was done. 22 pages I had completely finished. And this was during the nighttime when I would come home from work. So I would go to work in the daytime, I would come home at night, and then I would immediately jump onto this book. And I'm just like, I am gonna get this book done. So I was knocking out about 5 pages a day, or 5 pages a night, I should say.
That's crazy.
So
how would you sleep?
I didn't sleep much. I think I slept for about an hour or 2 hours per night for that week, and then when I was done, I think I slept for 3 days straight.
Imagine.
Like that whole weekend was just like sleep. Yeah, that was my crazy story. And thank you, Dan. Thank you, JJ. You guys came through. You guys came through and you helped me out a lot. And this is the ironic part. That book ended up being the best out of all the issues.
So what lesson is there? It's either fast is better.
Maybe the faster you go, the better it is. The more pressure it is, the better you are. I don't know. So it could be that.
Yeah, I had something similar with my animations in school. Like I always tried to do too much, and luckily I had a lot of friends that helped me out with the coloring and the in-betweening, and
Oh yeah.
it's just yeah. Comics and animation is so much work. Who's your favorite comic book artist when you were a kid?
My favorite comic artist
Yes.
when I was a kid? That's a tough question because I wasn't really into comics when I was a kid. I was more into animation and cartoons and stuff like that. That's where my brain was. I was like, look at that. But I'm old, so I grew up in the 70s. So what was around in the 70s? you know. So yeah, so basically, I didn't really get into comics until this was in my early years of college.
Right.
That's when I really got into comics. Before that, I was more just into art. I like anything about art. I like to paint. I like to draw. I like to sculpt. I used to go to art galleries. I still go to art galleries to this day. But
Yeah?
I still do. You know, you have to. You got to soak it in. But I was really into that. So I trained my brain to think in that direction, to not copy or not mimic anyone's style, to try to be as unique as possible and try to just build your own brand. So I was training myself to think in that direction. And then one day I was introduced to a very, very famous artist named Jim Lee. And I was like,
Never heard of him.
Who's this Jim Lee guy? You know, I'm looking at his work and I'm just like this. I'm like, oh my God, this is.
Yeah, it's great.
This is.
Was
I
that
knew
Hush or no? It was before you.
This was when
Wait.
Image first came out. So this was Wildcats and no. This was his X-Men #1. I saw that. That was the first book I saw of his. That made me say, oh wow, this is it. This is it. I want to draw comics. I knew I can draw. I just didn't know I could draw. I wanted to draw comics.
Right.
Until I saw that X-Men #1, and then that's when the light bulb kicked in my head, and I knew it. I knew from that moment I'm going to be a comic artist. And then after that, the next book I saw was the Wildcats #1, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. This is the same guy. And my friend, his name was Brett Booth. He was saying, yeah, this is this guy, blah, blah, blah. He was telling me all about, you know, who Jim Lee was, and then eventually, he was like, oh, I'm also gonna be working for Jim Lee, blah blah, blah, doing this when we're working studio. So that's when 2 light bulbs went up in my head. I'm like,
Oh, shit.
he can do this. I can do it too. I know I can do it. So I graduated college. Then at the time I went back to school because I had nothing else to do. So I went back into school. While I was in school, I think I only finished like the first 2 months. And then
You got picked up out of school.
and then that's when no, I didn't get picked up yet. That's when
Okay.
I submitted some work. I sent it in, and then the feedback I got was, "This is great. Let me see more."
Okay, so you
And that was it. I dropped everything I was doing, all my plans, everything. I just completely stopped. I told my dad, "Look, I'm gonna go in this direction. I'm gonna draw comic books. I need to sit down at home and just focus on this. So I need you to pay my rent for me, so I can do this." My dad said, "Okay."
Oh really?
He
It's
paid my
very
rent every
supportive.
month for me, and gave me some money so I can eat. And literally all I did was sit at home, was sleep and draw, sleep and draw, sleep and draw, sleep and draw.
Those
sleep
were the
and draw,
days.
Sleep and draw, sleep and that was it. I did that for 6 months, and then each month I would submit a piece, and then after the 6th submission, that's when I got the phone call, and then they say, "Okay, we really like your work. Come work for me." And now the rest is history.
I think of Burn Hogarth.
I love Bern Hogarth. I love his star signs.
You say Burn Hogarth?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's where I learned my anatomy from.
the Tarzans.
When I was in high school, I went to, I think it was Barnes and Noble, and I bought me a Burn Hogarth anatomy book, and that is the book that taught me how to draw anatomy, how to refine everything, and it really forged me as a beginner artist.
He has a couple of books, and some of them they're a bit too Bern Hogarth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He has like a style.
Yeah.
But I really like his Tarzan work because it is somebody tamed him a little bit. I think so. It's like it's cool. But someone that I really like. I talked to Dan about this because who's your favorite comic book artist, and I really like Alex Raymond and Hal Foster. And you're like, well, you're going way old school.
Yeah. Yeah, my first comic book that I really would say I kind of fell in love with, it was these Tarzan comic books I used to love back in the 70s. used to watch those books all the time, and are those Archie comics.
Right.
So my sister would get the Archie comics, and I would just sit here and just like, ooh, and so I started drawing those things. So that was my very first true introduction into comic books. And understand, I'm from the Caribbean, so I grew up on an island where we got everything like 5 years later. This was in the 70s, so there's no internet, there's no.
I just give her only high heels.
Did you? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna fix up a couple things, but
I'll give her some clothes. She's probably it's cold here.
I'm gonna draw this first.
What are you doing when you're smudging like that? Just creating a soft edge? Or?
Yeah, it's almost, I'm creating these obscure type of shapes where there's no specific definition. It's just basically, it's almost like my version of cross hatching. So it's a really rough smudge area, just so I can get a sense of, okay, I don't want it to have a hard edge. I want to have some kind of transition. So I just kind of quickly.
How do you get good at developing those sorts of patterns, Ryan, to make it look organic?
Trial and error, honestly. I'm basically thinking of, okay, I just need to cover this area with a dark area, but I don't want it to be completely dark. Yeah. So I'm going to scribble a little bit, test it. Scribble, test, and just see how it goes. So a lot of it is just, I'm just making it up as I'm going, and then it's coming up. Sometimes it will come out great, sometimes it won't. If I go too far, that's when I'll go back in with white, and I'll go back and I'll clean it up. So, like you're gonna see, I'm gonna come back with some white here in a minute, and I'm gonna do some testing. So right now, I'm just kind of scribbling some shapes because I know it's gonna be dark in these areas. So I'm just gonna scribble the shapes, all right? And then I'm gonna come back with white and add some details in there later on.
Are you thinking of specific striations on the muscle at all? Or?
Yes, I am. I'm thinking of all of that. I'm trying to follow the contours of certain areas. In this chest hair, I know it's going to be dark underneath, so I'm going to try to keep that pattern going, and then come back and add some white to add some details. It's kind of like drawing and squinting at the same time.
Yeah.
Some artists, they will kind of squint a little just to kind of blur the image, what they're trying to draw, so they can get like a general sense of that area, and then they'll open their eyes and they'll see sharper, and you're like, okay, I can go in and add some detail. But it's kind of like that. I'm creating a general shape. The black hand.
Oh shit.
I love it though. You like to get messy like this from time to time.
Of course, yeah.
You gotta get messy when you're working. It's a little bit too messy though. Don't get it on my clothes.
I'm wearing a white shirt.
Perfect.
Ah!
Now, since I have this basic shape here, it's all good. Just bump me.
That's looking super cool. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good.
This is such a cool arm. Yeah, the more I see you do that, the thicker I'm making my line.
Well, where's that black ink?
That's cool. Let it be. Don't smudge it because I actually
Where did it come
like
from? That's what I'm trying to. Did it
But-
come from this?
Dude, I put like red everywhere. Yeah, don't worry
Was
about
that
it.
yours? That's not me.
That's fun.
Can you splash a little bit here as well?
I can, but I don't think it's me. See? Oh, it is me.
Yeah, can you do a little bit here on the shoes? Yeah, like that. That's cool.
Careful your pants, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no, it's
yeah.
all good.
Yeah, I know.
All good.
No, my pants.
Just splash it a little bit.
Okay.
I like that texture.
Okay.
That's cool. Yeah,
But I am-
it kind of ties it together a little bit as well, like putting a texture
Yeah,
over
yeah.
everything. He's like, I'm ready to fight
Yeah.
Ryan's mob.
Yeah.
Just loading her gun here.
Yeah.
Their own horses, man. Always in comics, you never really show the battle. It's always a moment before or the moment after.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why is that? Is it more drama?
It's mainly it's part of comic storytelling because it's condensed
Right.
shorthand storytelling because you have to squeeze a lot of information into like one tiny panel.
Right.
It's not easy, but it's the result you actually see. That's what I was talking about in comics. The difference between comics and
Right.
animation. You can take one panel or a page of a comic book and turn that into like 50 panels in animation. So, especially when you're storyboarding.
Have you ever had this happen to you when boarding? That there is a lazy writer and says, and then a intense fight scene happens, and that's the only thing he describes, and then you're just like, oh man.
I have had some writers that I've worked with in the past that kind of gave me a giant paragraph and expect me to break it up into like 20 pages or something.
Right.
You know, I mean, some artists enjoy it because they get a little bit more freedom. Some artists don't. It really depends.
What do you personally like? You get that freedom of the fight. Sometimes I like having it written so that afterwards when for the games, like, the champions need their abilities or whatever, or the agents, whoever it is, then I think the writer could already help me with that by hinting, and I can expand on it, because if I have to start from the blue, I'll know there'd be like 10 iterations down the road.
Okay. I know exactly how you feel. I feel like when you approach comics, or the initial approach to it, basically, is that you have your writer and then you have your artist.
Right.
The writer writes a story, but then they're almost like the behind the scenes director, the skeleton director.
Right.
The director that choreographs the entire flow of this comic without any visuals. And then you have the artist comes on, and now they're the visual director who's like taking over from where the writer left off,
Right.
and they're basically bringing it to life. Some writers, they like it to just give you a paragraph and say, hey, make 20 pages out of this. And some artists, they enjoy it. Yeah, they enjoy just grabbing it because it gives them a little more freedom, and they get to. But
true.
At that point, you're turning the artist into a writer now.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm like,
that's my little.
That's not the job of the penciler. The penciler is not supposed to write this here. But some people enjoy it, you know.
I do too, but I just think, I mean, of course you enjoy it if you do a pass and then they're like, great, this is it, and you feel like super happy.
Yeah.
But if it's gonna be like a back and forth, then it's, guys, you could have written that, you know.
That is a downside, because what if the artist does something that's not even what the writer wanted or intended?
Right.
You know, and then now the artist has to go back and make all this changes and clean up and, you know, add an extra panel and squeeze this in and do that. You know, that's why, honestly, I prefer if the writer just writes everything out, and
Yeah, me too.
the artist doesn't have to think. I'm not, you know, don't bring the artist in to do all the thinking for you. The artist just needs to just go, just read it and go. So that's just my thing on it.
No, I agree with that, because unless you really tell up front, let's do a fight, or do like exploration of this, whether it's a fight scene or something that's
Yeah.
ambiguous, and you kind of know. The thing I like the most is, and I'm sure you is when you're sitting directly with the director himself, and you're just like thumbnailing out the panels, like, could be like this, could be like that, and then you're just thumbing with him really quick.
Yep.
And then you know directly, you don't need feedback afterwards because you did it together.
Yep, exactly.
Those are my favorite
Exactly.
kind of directors.
But if you look at like a lot of the stuff I'm doing, if you look at a lot of the strokes, it has like a painter type of approach to it.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm not trying to make it look too pretty. I want it to have like a rough type of feel to it. I think if it comes across too clean, too pretty, then it looks great. It looks good, but
you like the grit.
For me, I like speed. I don't like grit. Thank you guys for coming in and checking us out. We truly enjoyed sharing some art with you guys. I hope you guys learned a little bit about some of the fundamentals and applying, the final techniques to those fundamentals. One thing I would say is don't ever forget your fundamentals, because they will always pull you out of any jams that you run into.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better. What we basically did here is we use the same shapes, but we draw them differently, and that's what the fundamentals are. You just keep making, like Christian said, keep making a lot of small decisions, correct decisions, instead of trying to tackle everything at once.
The small pieces, you stitch them together, and it turns into a larger piece. And don't be afraid
to make your hands messy.
Make your hands messy.
Awesome, man.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's been an honor. Thank you.
All right.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you'd be interested in learning from Ryan, he has a course on Proko going through the fundamentals of drawing. He goes through the basics all the way to using complex shapes to draw figures. Check it out in the description if you want to learn more.